So apparently the GOP featured Oliver Anthony's Me North of Richmond in the latest Republican primary debate, and even gave it some lip service. Oliver Anthony made a response video explaining how the song wasn't intended to help the GOP, and it was meant as a critique on them, as part of Washington, D.C.
If there is anything for me to address at all with you, it's that it's the one thing that has bothered me is seeing people wrap politics up into this. I'm disappointed to see, it's aggravating seeing people on conservative news try to identify with me like I'm one of them. It's aggravating seeing certain musicians and politicians act like we're buddies and act like we're fighting the same struggle here, like that we're trying to present the same message. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and I've tried to be polite to everybody, and I've talked to hundreds of people the last 2 weeks. But it seems like certain people want to just ride the attention of this song to maybe make them their own selves relevant, and that's aggravating as hell. The other thing that I find aggravating is, it was funny seeing my song in it was funny seeing it at the presidential debate. Because it's like, I wrote that song about those people, So for them to have to sit there and listen to that cracks me up. But it was funny kind of seeing the response to it. Like, that song has nothing to do with Joe Biden, It's a lot bigger than Joe Biden. That song is written about the people on that stage. And a lot more, too. Not just them, but definitely them.
Now I understand where Oliver Anthony is coming from, and why he thinks his song is supposed to act as a critique on the GOP, as well as the Democrats. But how can Anthony believe that his song hits at the GOP while GOP candidates think it helps their cause? The answer is simple. The GOP candidates understand how their base, as well as centrists, interpret Anthony's lyrics, while Anthony only understands how he himself interprets these lyrics, and wrongly assumes that everyone else does as well. In effect, he is serving as the GOP's dupe. You see, Oliver Anthony's song literally plays into the GOP's narrative. Me North of Richmond claims that low wages are due to taxation, and that these taxes are used to provide junk food for welfare recipients. Furthermore, these taxes being spent on welfare recipients comes at the cost of helping homeless people. This is all factually wrong, and it plays into the Republican Party's narrative and their war on the middle and lower classes. They don't want people to realize that the middle class is struggling because wages have fallen behind rising costs of living, as more and more of the wealth goes to the top. It's the GOP who has persecuted the war on labor power and has spearheaded changes to the tax code that benefit the earners at the top. The GOP loves it when the middle class blames the poor and taxes for their problems. That not only lets them off the hook, it's what they use for their campaigns. They want people to believe that the middle class is struggling because of taxes. This way they can blame the Democrats for these illusory taxes and avoid dealing with blowback for their war on labor power. They want middle earners to believe that the Democrats are making their lives harder, so they can help welfare recipients eat more junk food. Remember, the GOP is the party that runs on the notion that we have too much government, and if you vote them in, they'll tear it down. So while people like Oliver Anthony think they're hitting the GOP as hard as they're hitting the Democrats, they're really helping the GOP. They just don't understand this, because they don't realize they're playing into a false narrative that actually helps the GOP, and this splitting hairs between welfare recipients and homeless people is also silly. Social spending for the homeless also exists, but Anthony's song implies that no help is being sent to the homeless, because it's being spent on welfare recipients who are just using that money to buy junk food. And by the way, it's been shown that SNAP recipients don't spend that much more on junk food compared to the remainder of the population. This is a fabricated problem meant to divide the lower income brackets and keep their eye off the real problem. That said, I wouldn't necessarily oppose a policy that removed SNAP support for junk food, or perhaps a policy that added a tax on junk food. That might be good for all of us, not just SNAP recipients. But this idea that welfare recipients buying junk food somehow eclipses help for the homeless is completely made up, and it is music to the Republican Party's ears. Lastly, what plagues people in lower income brackets as well as those who are homeless is largely the same thing. That is, a problem with their executive function. The difference is that homeless people are suffering from an impaired executive function, even more so than those on welfare. Oliver Anthony's song only serves to split middle and lower income earners and let the GOP off the hook. The problem is that Anthony doesn't know enough about policy, nor economics to understand this. He thinks he's striking some enlightened middle ground when in fact he's just parroting GOP thinkery. This is why the GOP was happy to play his song in the recent debates. Fortunately, Billy Bragg released a better song, one that's compatible with political realities and isn't just a series of platitudes that miss the mark.
Overtime hours for bullshit pay. Well, nothing's gonna change if all you do is wish you could wake up and it not be true. Join a union. Fight for better pay. You better join a union, brother.